21 Dreams. Happy Maria learns to be sad.
Once upon a time, there was a girl called Maria. In her short life, she'd never known any sadness, because she lived in a joyous village, untouched by sorrow or anger. Her father was the mayor, so her family was particularly happy. Maria had noticed, however, some signs of sorrow creeping into the village, and she was disturbed by this. Next door lived an old lady, Theodora. Theodora's garden was famed for its constantly blooming flowers, but now they had withered and faded. Theodora's dog had died on the first day of spring, and her garden had gone untended. I wonder, thought Maria, if I can find Theodora some sort of distraction from her grief. Maria came up with a plan, which she thought was pretty good for someone who had never had to make a plan in her life. She would go to the garden centre, buy pots of flowers already in bloom, and surround Theodora's cottage with colour as a cheering surprise. To get to the garden centre, however, Maria would have to borrow a car. She knew only one person in the village who had one, most people who lived there being too happy to want to leave. His name was Antonio. He had once been a famous actor in the city, but had gotten too old to withstand the rigours of theatrical life and had retired. Parked in his yard was a big rusty old yellow van, stuffed with costumes from the plays that he had starred in. The only problem was that Antonio was mostly a hermit, and the only other unhappy person in the village, besides Theodora. He had chosen to retire there in hopes that its happy atmosphere would have an effect on him, but so far, it hadn't. He sat at home in a cardigan, reading the works of great playwrights all day long, remembering his glory days. If Maria wanted him to give her a ride, she would need to offer him something he really missed. The sound of applause. Fortunately, her father could nominate someone to direct the pantomime the villagers put on every winter. Maria, being his daughter, could easily persuade him. Antonio, delighted to accept, was delighted to empty the van of costumes. They would come in useful later for the panto, and drive over to the garden centre to fill it with flowers instead. The surprise worked perfectly. Theodora's smile returned, and seeing how lovely she looked, standing there amidst the blossoms, Antonio cast her as the merry widow in his play. When the first triumphant performance had finished, and Antonio had drunk his fill of the applause, he and Theodora called Maria up to the stage. If you hadn't managed everything so beautifully, we'd still be unhappy. Everyone clapped for Maria, who restored joy to the village. Maria blushed and bowed, and enjoyed it very much. But you know, she said afterwards, I've realized a little bit of sadness is no bad thing. The happiness you feel afterwards means that much more. I'll always like being happy, of course, but I'm not afraid to be sad.